Hey, everybody, welcome, and I hope your Black Friday was safe if you went out and tried to find deals. But I'm going to not waste time with this live stream. I want you to listen to the words of a media personality I talked about briefly last night. Her name is Tina Quizon. This is her video describing what she learned at Allegiant Stadium, Raiders Allegiant Stadium on November 12th, and I'll enlarge this video so that you can get a better view of what she's about to say. And here is Tina Quizon in her reality.
Aloha, this is Tina Quizon. I'm here in Las Vegas, and I'm actually on site of the Allegiant Stadium that's being built for the new facility for the Raiders that is supposed to be completed in July 2020 to start the new season of the NFL. I've been told of some allegations of some concerns with the bolts that they're using here for the construction of the stadium, and some concerns with the structural, that there was a possible collapse, and the integrity of the bolts that were being used on a section. So I was told several things, and this was from some anonymous sources that don't want to be identified, that there was a collapse one part of the stadium, and they were having problems with the bolts. And so I'm going to be trying to follow up and find out more about this situation. There has been other problems and concerns. Mostly was with the steel. They had to get some of those things reordered, remade because of the tariffs, and concerns with some of the I believe it was the quality of the steel. They're concerned with some of the electronics that are going to be installed, and they're going to be getting those items from the Philippines. But this is the first that we've heard about some design flaws, and in particular with the bolts, and a possible small collapse that occurred here. I believe they said sometime last week. So I'm going to be trying to follow up and see what more I can find out. So just want to give you a heads up and update of what's going on as far as this stadium out here in Las Vegas with the NFL. Tina Quizon reporting live here in Las Vegas in front of the Allegiant Stadium site for the new fans and Raiders. So keep in touch. I'll give you an update.
Now, I'll play that for you one more time.
Aloha, this is Tina Quizon. I'm here in Las Vegas, and I'm actually on site of the Allegiant Stadium that's being built for the new facility for the Raiders that is supposed to be completed in July 2020 to start the new season of the NFL. I've been told of some allegations of some concerns with the bolts that they're using here for the construction of the stadium, and some concerns with the structural, that there was a possible collapse, and the integrity of the bolts that were being used on a section. So I was told several things, and this was from some anonymous sources that don't want to be identified, that there was a collapse one part of the stadium, and they were having problems with the bolts. And so I'm going to be trying to follow up and find out more about this situation. There has been other problems and concerns. Mostly was with the steel. They had to get some of those things reordered, remade because of the tariffs, and concerns with some of the I believe it was the quality of the steel. They're concerned with some of the electronics that are going to be installed, and they're going to be getting those items from the Philippines. But this is the first that we've heard about some design flaws, and in particular with the bolts, and a possible small collapse that occurred here. I believe they said sometime last week. So I'm going to be trying to follow up and see what more I can find out. So just wanted to give you a heads up and update of what's going on as far as this stadium out here in Las Vegas with the NFL. Tina Quizon reporting live here in Las Vegas in front of the Allegiant Stadium site for the new fans and Raiders. So keep in touch. I'll give you an update.
Okay, before I get to a discussion of what she just reported, the obvious question is, who is Tina Quizon, right? And Tina Quizon just sort of popped up, okay, quite literally. For me, first, during the NFL owners meeting in Fort Lauderdale, she was on Twitter in Miami, and she tagged me on a tweet, and I responded back. I followed, I sent her a private message, and I was trying to say, hey, if you are, I thought she was credentialed in NFL media. It turned out she wasn't. I said, if you're not credentialed in NFL media, you should not be there, because if you walk into the hotel, you would get arrested. So I then alerted Brian McCarthy of the NFL, and he said he'd check into it. Where that led to beyond that, I don't know. And that was it. And now she pops up in Las Vegas. Now, I'm not saying this to discredit what she's reporting. I'm simply saying that it's, I think, important to get out of the way why she automatically popped up. And also, I'll get to that. Listen, I'll get to that. Why she automatically popped up now. And I get the impression she's doing this on her own because she has some sort of issue with the NFL about public money. So this is starting to feel like a very classic example of true citizen journalism. And until I get some other kind of indication that that's different, that's what I'm going to go with. Because she's doing this on her own. She's popped up. She's got an axe to grind, I've gathered. And but it's one of those axes that drives citizen journalism. And but as to what sparked it, I do not know. And it's not the only thing she covers if you follow her Twitter feed, but she's got that. She's got a blog. She has a background in television broadcasting, but that was some time ago. And so, but it's fair to ask in this day and age, who's who, right? And why. Nothing wrong with that. Now, having said that, I now get to what she reported because it just so happens to coincide with a number of troubling developments with respect to the stadium. One report that just came out is that the stadium roof will be finished in April. The one prior to that, but related to it, is that the uplift is going to be delayed now. It was supposed to be finished in Thanksgiving. Yesterday is going to be delayed through December. And of course, that could be extended. What Don Webb, the Raiders' chief operating officer, never ever explains is why. All he does is go into this explanation that it's not on the critical path. And then, if you happen to look at the Review Journal article that was written, it's gobbledygook because he goes into 3 or 4 paragraphs talking about, first, that the critical path isn't important with respect to completing it. Then he later says, well, if something happens, it was ignored, then it comes up, then it can go on the critical path again. So you're thinking, what? And you start to go down this rabbit hole and you realize he's not telling us why this is delayed. So then Tina mentions this issue around the bolts, and that reminded me of what popped up. What popped up here on an article, and I'll read your comments in a second. But this I wrote in July from Oakland News Now, ONN, and I'm putting an arrow, and I'm putting here for you to be able to access. It's now a live link, and the title of this is Raiders Las Vegas Stadium roof 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 truss problem. Las Vegas Stadium roof truss problem causes new delay, and the date was June 15th of this year, 2019. And I'll read it to you because when I read it, you'll agree that it sounds as if it's directly related to this issue. So the Oakland Raiders Las Vegas Stadium has a new problem on top of sponsorship issues and stadium hotel tax revenue problems, an issue that caused the removal of one of the truss segments, 26 in all, and 130,000 pounds each, that are being installed ahead of a self-imposed July 31st deadline, had to be removed on June 12th, and to this day, June 15th, it has still not been replaced. This is a major development setback for the new NFL stadium and is related to another Las Vegas stadium construction process that is also now pushed back, and that's the installation of 850-foot long cables that are to fix the 26 roof trusses in place and support the translucent ethylene terephthalate ETFE roof. On top of that, Las Vegas monsoon 2019 is said to be coming. Remember, this was June of this year, June 15th. Today, Saturday. If it does, that expected flash flood will add up to yet another rain delay this year to push back the Las Vegas stadium construction schedule, meaning a stoppage in the process to fix the roof truss problem, which is a delay in itself. This news comes courtesy of the video posted by Las Vegas YouTube vlogger Jedi Rich Lightlauer and with Jedi Joy as the reporter in the video blog. Note to be clear, Jedi Rich broke the story of the delay, not Zenny62 Media. The space is simply reporting what they have found and at the same time releasing the news to a wider audience. So I'm not going to play the video, I'm going to go beyond that. And what the vlogger wrote, it was this. It said, while reviewing the footage, we saw that the engineers decided to take this truss down. They took the truss down because it was not fitting properly in place. It was either an issue with the truss or the roof fixture. Hey, John, how you doing? This is a big deal because it takes a lot of manpower and delays to fasten these trusses. It then takes hours to a full day to lift it and secure them in place. And I'm not going to read this. I'm going to go on and explain this. It says that, in these photos, this is Jedi Rich and Jedi Joy writing this. The engineers are discussing the problem Wednesday morning. They had lifted it on Wednesday. Then today it was back on the ground. This is not a good thing for the crew, being that they are in such tight schedule already. It is also very frustrating for them, I'm sure, when things just do not go right. As of Friday morning, the truss was on the ground. The bolts were not fitting right. It was a big deal because they got it almost set and then had to bring it back down. This causes a lot of people wasted time for the crew. They're expecting to lift the truss this weekend, hopefully Saturday, as long as they do not experience any more hiccups along the way. The crew is all about safety. They must have deemed the truss not safe, so they brought it down. The crew goes above and beyond and all that. Okay, let's hope they stay on course. All right, fine. And then that was the last citizen journalist reporting we saw on this, because Jedi Rich and Jedi Joy turned and stopped reporting anything about what was really happening at the stadium, and then started blasting me and saying, I'm putting out all the negative information, yada, yada. I'm thinking, what is this? Someone got to them because they were really acting in a way that can only be described as uncomfortable, and that's putting it charitably, okay? So, as you know, the roof trusses were in place, and ostensibly everything was fine. But given this new report about some collapse in these bolts, it means that this was not really a settled issue. In other words, there was something wrong, and perhaps they were under such a tight time frame. Remember Jedi Joy saying that Don Webb had the crews working 24 hours to fix this problem, and they were working double overtime shifts to fix this problem. In other words, they were working in haste to get the trusses in place. So it sounds as if there's something wrong. Now, I mean, it sounds as if there's something wrong with that. Now, I'm going to read your comments because a number of them have been quite valuable, and all this in total adds to the information that we know, right, about this. Because look, you're not getting the skinny. And I'm going to start with your comments. Keith Roscoe, how you doing? Then Roscoe follows up. So it's an anonymous source also. They have a live feed inside on outside. You would think a collapse would have been on in video. I thought the same thing. But see, Keith, the term collapse, when you hear that without context, you think it refers to the roof. Okay. But I don't know. You don't know. Someone knows if indeed it happened. Okay. I don't know. And so, hey, how you doing, Rondell? Rondell says, has there been any other equal issues during other team stadium builds? No, nothing like this. Atlanta's problem had to do with an issue that came up with the operation of the roof, that kind of octagonal roof like that, pedals that occurred after the stadium was largely complete. So the decision was made to not use the roof, play games in it, leave it closed, okay, and then use the facility that way in that configuration. But prior to that, I'll tell you one thing about the way Atlanta Falcons Mercedes-Benz Stadium was done. If they had a problem, they called a press conference. They said, hey, we've got a problem here. And that's the way you're supposed to do something. It's not a matter of hating on a stadium or anything. Look, if you've got great things to report, you report them. If you have bad things to report, you report them. Same with the Trans-Bay Joint Powers Authority and the Salesforce Transit Center project, $2.6 billion transit center in San Francisco. They have and had a daily, weekly information portal for the public and the press to access with press releases. Good news, you heard about it. They were going after tenants to fill, you knew about it. They had bad news, you knew about that too. They reported them in equal measure, in other words, in terms of accessibility. It wasn't like this project where the term sunshine never met the Las Vegas Stadium project. Straight out, okay? That's why there's a number of people looking at this. It's not a matter of trying to say, oh, something is bad or this is wrong. It's this effort to just not tell you exactly what's happening. Why? And they're using almost $1 billion of public money, 750 million, which I don't in and of itself criticize. But if you're going to do it, have respect for the public and let them know what's happening. So, at any rate, hope that answers your question for now, Ron. Keith says, now having lived in Hawaii for 12 years, God, you're lucky, man. And her being from Hawaii, I wouldn't be surprised if a Hawaii local worker on the site did have some info, and she most likely had some extended ohano on the site. That's kind of like symbiotic, really, relationship. Could be. Then Keith adds up, may have been some real truth, but the collapse to me is exaggeration for headlines. But I leave the both to be felt to be true. I think that's true. I mean, even she, I have to give her some measured credit here, because she doesn't emphasize that it was a collapse. She doesn't say this absolutely happened. She says, I think, but she's trying to confirm it. Okay. So, John Akala, how are you doing? Keith Roscoe adds, it coincides with a delay in steel early in sight. Wouldn't surprise me if they're in a bind, ordered the bolts from overseas, with a border wall being built, with SoFi Stadium being built. Then John Akala asks, how long do you estimate it will take to inspect the stadium before Raiders can start playing once the stadium is complete? Well, there's a there's a window of about a month to 2 months that they need before the NFL says it's ready. And I'm glad you brought that up, because the NFL has to have the final say on when the stadium is going to be ready. It's not um, having a certificate of occupancy issued by Clark County is one thing, but that does not automatically mean the NFL is going to say, okay, this thing is ready. Okay. So I would look at any claims that the stadium is going to be ready for the season with a jaundiced eye until the NFL gives the green light that the stadium is ready. Even if Goodell comes out and says something that indicates that, although I think Roger will be careful, but Roger does have to balance the interests of the team owners with the NFL. So the Raiders are putting the NFL in a tough bind, to be sure. Um, and with all these developments, I'm not even sure exactly where this is going to go. What I mean by that is this. I also found out today that the Raiders lease that allows them to remain at the Coliseum for 2020 is such that they don't pay any more rent for 2020 than for 2019. In other words, I'm explaining to you they got a rent break. Okay, because the original rent was supposed to be 10.5 million, up from 7.5 million. But I was told today by a source, don't want to say, it's the same, which means the Raiders had been working to get that rent down in anticipation of having to play in Oakland one more year, 2020, at the Coliseum. Keep that in mind. Okay, that's a big deal. All right. So so we've got so those are your comments. I got all your comments out of the way. But that's the situation right now with that. And I'm not going to spend too much other time discussing this. But I wanted to open a live stream and drill down on this, because even since last night, there was more information coming up. Uh, it For those of you who don't know, the original date of completion for the project was May 2020. Then it was moved back to June 2020. Then it went from June to July, and then to mid-August, and then to mid-September in terms of the scheduled dates. But when people in the media started saying, hey, you're changing your schedule, they're moving the goalpost, all right? They moved the goalpost back to July 31st, 2020, with the notation of substantial completion. But due to pressures by some who, according to what Tina has written, seem to be located in the government. Welcome to Zinni 62. Now, all of a sudden, they're saying Don Webb, the Raiders' esteemed chief operating officer. I'm not saying that jocularly. I mean that. I've described that Don Webb appears to me like a good man who's in a tough position, and he's trying to make two masters happy, not one. One of them political in Las Vegas, the other one, the Raiders. And he's doing this balancing act, and it's tough. I don't envy him. Keith Roscoe says on YouTube he goes by 1967 Raiders. He gives updates every other day around. Okay, he said around the original delay, he tried to show inside feed, but he noted it was down for a few days. Thinking back now, I've monitored it; it's quite up. And what's neat about the Stadium Authority site, or the Stadium Raiders site, excuse me, but the stream is you can go back in the archives and see. But again, I say, yeah, that's a good point. It was down for a few days. That's interesting, which could mean something happened. But I also note that it was up while it was raining. Okay. Keith Rocco says, keep up the good investigative reporting. You're doing a great job. Thank you. I appreciate that. Fist bump. Thank you. Back at you. And again, it's not a matter of hating, okay? It's a matter of simply adding some sunshine. Just saying, where is this project at? Because no other stadium project has been handled like this. Even in, hey Jamal, how you doing? Even in Inglewood SoFi Stadium, if the Rams had a problem, they had to delay it for a year. You knew about it. You knew why. They explained why. Of course, maybe there's information other claim that wasn't clearly put out there, but you knew why. Even then, they could do a better job of having a web portal for people to go to regarding press releases. I'll check and see if one exists. But in the instance of this project, it doesn't. It doesn't. Now, is there an outside chance, given the way this stadium is going, that the entire relocation could be scuttled? That is a very remote but possible chance if it is found that the problems with the structure are so acute that you quite literally would have to start all over again in building the stadium. I'm not saying that's the case, okay? But what I am explaining is that as of now, I believe the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda have to consider a possible scenario where the Raiders wind up staying in Oakland a little longer than they want them to. So Arcade says, keep telling the truth even if it hurts some people. And I don't seek to hurt anybody. I'm just, what motivates me is a number of issues that I pointed to that people told me I was wrong and I didn't know I was talking about, like the tax issue, and I knew I was talking about, and I kept pressing it, or with the bond design and with respect to its debt coverage ratio, which should be 2-to-1, it was 1.5-to-1, among other things. I mean, early on, I kept saying, hey, these are issues that the public should know about. You could have a negative revenue growth here because of the fact that hotel visitation rates have been on the decline in Las Vegas since starting in July of 2017 with respect to 2016, which is a record year. All these matter. If you're going to draw hotel tax revenue and visitor rates go down, what happens? It hurts you. Okay. So, yeah. So Keith Roscoe says, I didn't know you could go back in archives. Interesting. Yeah, it's much more efficient to go back to the archives, Keith, and then do your stadium updates from there with your video rather than standing out there. Nothing against 1967 and what he's doing. It's been fun to watch him. But on the other hand, you stand out there for 30 minutes at a time. You can save a lot of time just going by using the Raiders live stream in the comfort of your home and taking advantage of the very intense video archive that they've set up there. I mean, why not use it? It's there, So that's what I would do. So John Acosta says, so the Raiders are paying the same amount of rent in 2020 if they opt in? Yes, that is news. That is correct. And I'm going to blast that out there as a separate post, video, after I'm done with this. But yeah, that is true. The Raiders are paying the same rent, which means, but think about what that means. It means there has been discussion, okay? That's what that means. So, but the other issue that I have has to do with this idea that, everything is okay, there's no problem, because as I look at it, Las Vegas had wet weather on Wednesday, right? And then Friday, temperature was good, but it's supposed to be record cold during the weekend. Record cold could arrive in Las Vegas this weekend, reports, and then of course it rained yesterday. So all of that impacts the stadium, which is not protected against against water coming into it. In fact, the other day I pointed out to take a look at this, all right? There's snowfall in Summerlin, as I point this out. Snowfall. It is snowing in Summerlin. Look at these nice houses, though. Take a look. See? See? Snowfall. Snowfall in Summerlin, Friday, November 29th. Snowfall. Okay? So, does that mean that there's snowfall in the stadium? Well, let's go to the video and find out. Because what this reports is that Saturday and Sunday's cool weather may set temperature records for the Las Vegas Valley. Chelsea Christon, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, said Saturday's high temperature is projected to be 48 degrees with a low of 33 degrees. That's forecasted high temperature is just off the record low of 47 degrees set in 2006. She says the record is within a degree right now of our forecast. And then Sunday could be a record setter too. The record low is 51 degrees. The projected high temperature in Sunday is 51. And so the low would be 38. Now, the low, 51 is like you're saying, that's still nothing. I agree with you, but it's the low that's something. The low gets close to freezing. 38 degrees is close to freezing, okay? Arcade says, this is Alec Davis doing all he can to stop this relocation. I started thinking about that. You know, there's something spiritually weird about this whole deal where suddenly both projects are running into all these problems. Well, not suddenly, but they run into all these problems as opposed to going smoothly. Like Atlanta's, no problem at all, right? US Bank Stadium, no problem at all. Well, you know, they got it done in record time, in fact. But SoFi Stadium, problem. Raiders Stadium, problem. I mean, it just seems like something's up, you know, spiritually. Okay, now let me check the Raiders website and the stadium webcam. But I will say this again, I'll repeat this again. Las Vegas deserves a large event center, period. Just do it right. If you're gonna do it right. But I will tell you this, okay? The Raiders are short 3 founding partner sponsors. This kind of news does not help in terms of getting sponsorships. The sponsors they have, Indian Gaming, I applaud. Separate from the Indian Gaming deal, though, a number of the deals, you have to ask, how come where's the BMW, where's the Porsche, where's the marquee company putting its name and money, you know, on some aspect of the stadium, right? So, I mean, you have to ask that, okay? So, I contend that if the Raiders, remained in the Bay Area, they could have had their pick of dealing with Facebook, Apple, Hewlett-Packard, Intel, Microsoft, Microsoft. I'll explain why I laugh in a second, Keith. Microsoft, YouTube, Google, Instagram, which is part of Facebook, Tesla, Elon Musk, okay? I mean, there's so many tech companies that, I mean, large and small, startup and established tech companies, many of them that have sponsorships at Chase Center, okay, that the Raiders just completely missed out on, and makes you just scratch your head like, dudes, why? Okay, why? Thanks, Jamal. It really just boggles the mind. The Raiders could have walked out of this with like 1.5 billion in sponsorships easily, all right, in the Bay Area, easily. But they didn't. You know, they could have had, they could have had Mark Benioff involved with Salesforce. I mean, when you start thinking about what they could have done, it just makes you ask, did they actually calculate how much you're going to get from gambling to offset this possibility? Because there are, when you, like Keith said, we got Ford. You got Ford dealers. You didn't get Ford Motor Company. Like if somebody else says we got Coca-Cola, you got Ray's Coca-Cola bottling. You didn't get Coca-Cola. The Falcons have Coca-Cola. Big difference. Big difference. So right now, if I look at the stadium, it's night, so it's difficult to tell anything. But if I click on archives, I go back November 29th to daylight, I can get some idea of what the weather was like. Actually, it was a nice day. Let me show you. It wasn't raining or anything. Take a look, at least at this point. Okay. See, that was as of roughly 5 o'clock today, 4 o'clock today. All right. And that was the 29th. Okay. Rush hour. See that traffic? Oh, think about this traffic at rush hour and then think of game day. Ooh. Let's see here. That was like 2:40 p.m., 2:20. This is at 1:20. There. So actually, I think this today, Friday, wasn't not bad at all. However, if you take a look here, you can see that there's still wet deposits where it rained the day before. Okay. And then if we go up and we take a look at the interior here, there, take a look at, you can still see where it's wet. And that's a big concern, okay? So this is going to be open for a while, quite a while, as we go into the winter weather season. And see these markings? These were, you know what these were? So people could walk along them. That's what these were. Access points. See that? For workers. Okay. So, there we go. All we can do now is wait and see what unfolds, keep gathering information, and going from right there. Hey, you know what? Look at this bit of litter here. Welcome to Zenny 62. Somebody, is that a cup? Or is that a drain? It's not a cup. It's like some sort of drain or something, isn't it? Yeah, that's some kind of drain. It's too large to be a cup. I thought it was a cup for a second there. Okay. Let's see if there's one over here. No, maybe it is a cup. What's this thing? That's interesting, isn't it? What is that? And it's only one of a kind, so maybe it is a cup. Maybe somebody left their lunch cup there. Doesn't it look like a lunch cup? Tell you what, if it's gone in subsequent views, we knew it was somebody's lunch cup, right? Sloppy. Throw your stuff away, man. Keith says the rail should be... Yeah, it does look like a cup of noodles. Keith is right, though. The rail should be silver, not blue. That's not cool. That's like Chargers colors or something. Oh, did I say that? Oh, my God. So we can see some, I mean, the good signs, I've said this before, and I'll say it again, that this third deck view is going to be, I think, the best in the NFL. Very intimate. I like it. It's like I just say, do it right. You know, don't get involved in rushing things. Take your time. All right. Okay, folks. I'll do another live stream on Saturday because it's too important not to. I gotta say though, the stadium is slowly taking shape. It looks cool. I really like the sight lines of the stadium. I really like these sight lines. So again, when it's done, it's gonna be nice. And Keith, right? It does look. It does. It really looks beautiful. I have to say, it does. It really. And see, look, people are willing to wait for a good thing, right? There's no reason to lie about anything or to twist information. If something's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. If you have to fix it, fix it. You know, like Walt Disney would, if you could figure out the problems for something, Disney will hire you and say, okay, fix it. That's smart. That's how these guys ought to be. Oh, don't get me started. Ah. All right. All right, everybody. Keith Ross says 100%. Yeah, that's all I'm saying, man. That's all I'm saying. All right, folks. So, hey, congratulations to Ted Hendricks on being named to the NFL's All 100 team. The Mad Stork lives on in immortality. Nice. And I say good night. You know, there's 30 people watching now. Hey, everybody, how you doing? I'll give a recap. And the recap is I will replay Tina's video for you. Not full screen though. I'll replay it at normal screen. This is Tina. This is how we started off the show, and I'll end it. This is her. Here is Tina Quizon.
Aloha, this is Tina Quizon. I'm here in Las Vegas, and I'm actually on site of the Allegiant Stadium that's being built for the new facility for the Raiders that is supposed to be completed in July 2020 to start the new season of the NFL. I've been told of some allegations of some concerns with the bolts that they're using here for the construction of the stadium, and some concerns with the structural, that there was a possible collapse, and the integrity of the bolts that were being used on a section. So I was told several things, and this was from some anonymous sources that don't want to be identified, that there was a collapse one part of the stadium, and they were having problems with the bolts. And so I'm going to be trying to follow up and find out more about this situation. There has been other problems and concerns. Mostly was with the steel. They had to get some of those things reordered, remade because of the tariffs, and concerns with some of the I believe it was the quality of the steel. They're concerned with some of the electronics that are going to be installed, and they're going to be getting those items from the Philippines. But this is the first that we've heard about some design flaws, and in particular with the bolts, and a possible small collapse that occurred here, I believe they said sometime last week. So I'm going to be trying to follow up and see what more I can find out. So just wanted to give you a heads up and update of what's going on as far as this stadium out here in Las Vegas with the NFL. Tina Quizon reporting live here in Las Vegas in front of the Allegiant Stadium site for the new fans and Raiders. So keep in touch. I'll give you an update.
Hey, everybody, that's her Twitter account, Tina Quizon, at the construction site, and her most recent tweet. Take you to her account right now. There it is. Yeah, Keith, I agree with you. See right there. She had expertise in showcasing business, multimedia, steering world sectors. And that's, yeah. So there you go. And this is what she talked about. Roof work on Allegiant Stadium pushed back to April 2020, confirmed by NBC4 Los Angeles. Confirms the new $2 billion stadium is being built near the Las Vegas Strip for Oakland's NFL Raiders. Not expect to have a roof in place until April, which just so happens also. Yeah, this is right. So there you go. Okay. So, and then not only that, April 1st is the deadline for when the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority has to know by the Raiders if they're going to extend the lease or not. And yeah, it's going to be at the same price. That's news. That's news. Okay. Uh, and That's news. Um, Keith Roscoe says her mentioning where the electronics are coming from really has me believing she has some insight. Now she's got an axe to grind regarding the league, and she's popped up. And like I said, uh, I'm not one for trying to shut somebody up because they're not with an April Fool's Day. That's pretty funny, Keith. I'm not one for treating somebody like that. If she's got as much right in this day and age to report as anyone else, Lord knows a number of people have done it. And whatever her motivation is, she's she's asking the right questions, and she's, as you can see by the video, putting herself in position to get information. So there you go. All right, live long and prosper. I'll talk to you on Saturday. Happy holidays. Technically, I'm already talking to you on Saturday, aren't I? Happy holidays, everybody, and go Raiders. Beat the Chefs.